40 women killed every day on average by someone close to them, be it an intimate partner or a close family member. If we have to leave this countdown continue for the next 10 minutes, what will happen by the end of 10 minutes is that a woman somewhere around the world should have been intentionally killed by someone very close to them. This summed up to a whopping 85,000 cases of femicide that were recorded globally in 2023, and 21,700 of these cases were recorded in Africa alone. And it's very likely that this is an underestimation, as data on femicide is not really available in some country. But however, as terrifying, as devastating as these numbers seem to appear, they don't tell the true story, and they may be very misleading if we get to treat them just as numbers. You know, there are very interesting papers, scientific papers on issues of gender-based violence that brings out these numbers in a very interesting way, plotted in very beautiful graphs. But yet, they are not able to tell you the true story. Do you know why? We only get a glimpse of the reality when we start putting names behind those numbers. Then we get to realize that we are not just talking about numbers that can be statistically manipulated. We are talking about people's children. We're talking about people's mothers. We're talking about people's siblings. We're talking about people's loved ones. Then we get to see that we're actually dealing with silent cries. We are dealing with dreams that have been crushed. We are dealing with lives that have been tragically
Someone
crushed.
who has been working on gender and related issues for quite some time, the topic is very close to my heart. I have worked with so many people affected by gender-based violence, and I have heard their stories. So whenever I think of gender-based violence, I am left speechless. How is that in this day and age we are still dealing with an act of barbarism that should no longer exist? The impact on individuals and society as a whole is huge, serving as a painful reminder that there is still so much work to be done. Gender-based violence must have no place in our world today. We cannot afford to leave the next generation speechless too.
The thing about being a victim or survivor is people don't get to understand the way you feel until they witness it for themselves. And believe me, it's an experience you would never want to have for yourself. And if it's something you don't want to have for yourself, it's definitely something you should never wish for another person. If you're very observant, despite the effort we are putting in, the record of femicide, of cases of gender-based violence, takes an arithmetic progression year in, year out. This tells us something. We have to scale up our efforts. We are doing it, but we have to do it better.
We must redefine strength. True strength isn't in dominating, controlling, or torturing others, either physically, emotionally, or psychologically. It is in choosing compassion, respect, and equality. Gender-based violence is a direct violation of human dignity and society sanity. It's up to us to stand against it. We are not powerless, we have the power to create change. It starts with the way we treat others in our everyday lives. Whether it's how we speak, how we act, or how we listen to our perceptions towards others. When we speak out against violence, support survivors, and challenge harmful stereotypes, we take a stand for a future where everyone can live free from fear and harm.
Remember, talking about gender-based violence, we are not talking about a women's issue, neither are we talking about a men's issue. What we are actually talking about here is a societal evil that needs to be collectively addressed. It's bad. It's bad. we are not doing women any favor by standing up against gender-based violence. What we're doing is collectively and intentionally, we are restoring societal sanity.
Over the years in our research work, we have realized that there is an amount of deconstruction needed around the struggles and conversations of gender-based violence. When we talk of gender, we are referring to men and boys, women and girls. In our effort to promote gender equality and combat GBV, it is essential to bring men and boys into the conversation and actively promote masculinity. Initially, these conversations often start off bitterly, with both clinging to extreme positions. But however, as the dialogue progresses, there is a noticeable migration towards a more sensual and understanding position. Excluding men and boys from these conversations can be counterproductive, as it tends to put them on the defensive, creating the perception that women and girls are being armed against them. When men and boys share the same space in these conversations, they begin to see that they are not being pitted against women and girls, but instead that they are being equipped to fight a common ill.
To all the men and boys, I call on you to take action. It is time to take a stand. No excuses, no silence. It is time to question. It is time to speak out. It is time to call out all forms of violence. I'm talking about physical violence, sexual violence, intimate partner violence, harmful traditional practices. It is time for us to fight all forms of gender-based violence in our community. It is time for us to take a stand and fight for a gender-equal future. We have an opportunity to rise up as men and boys to support the struggles of women and girls to fight this ill that has plagued us for so long. It is time for us to look at values like respect for one another and the fight for equal opportunities. Let us raise our voices to end this ill of gender-based violence.
Let's be the generation of men and boys who choose respect over violence, kindness over cruelty, and unity over division. Together, we can stand gender-based violence.